chairs. Oh, no, you don't want to sit up on the dais? I would think so. Well, Wendy will, okay. Anyways, we won't get started into the heart of it. I'll try to amuse you for about a minute or two while the chairs are coming in. But I do want to thank the League of Women Voters, led by Wendy During.
Oh, there she is.
This is Wendy During, who will be moderating our event tonight. And her helpers, Becky and Nancy, are going to handle this. Everybody is going to be passed out a 3x5 card. Have you gotten them yet? Anna? Anna? Here come the 3x5 cards. We need the 3x5 cards. Okay, the 3x5 cards are going to be passed out in a moment. Share pens and pencils, whoever doesn't have one. Okay, we're getting chairs brought in now. For those who I don't know or don't know me, I am Kathy Mulcahy, and I am the mayor of Orange Village. And we're delighted to have so many candidates in competition to become part of our wonderful community. And we encourage everyone to be involved, stay involved, come and be involved in any way you can or want to. Wendy, do you want to say anything about the rules or do an intro? All right, so the 3x5 cards are coming. I will walk around, these ladies will walk around, we'll collect them, and they're going to screen them, and Wendy will read the questions. This is a wonderful crowd. I'm delighted to see so many people in such a small community. This is delightful. Thank you all for coming out. All right, since it is now 7 o'clock, and it looks like we have chairs for pretty much everybody, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. My name is Wendy During. I'm with the League of Women Voters, as are our two question screeners. I would like to thank you all for making a concerted effort to be fully informed voters for this local election. Local government has a major and direct impact on our daily lives, but unfortunately, local elections consistently have the lowest voter turnout. The League of Women Voters is truly a nonpartisan political organization, recognized for its impartiality and respected role in promoting informed and active participation in government and advocating for good government policies. The League is valued by both voters and by candidates and elected officials because it insists upon and makes possible the fair exchange and expressions of views upon which democracy depends. The work that the League does is made possible by member dues and donations and the dedication of League volunteers. If you are not a member, we encourage you to join. Before we begin tonight's forum, we have a few rules. We ask the candidates and their supporters to refrain from wearing partisan items, which we're seeing quite a few of here, such as campaign buttons. Campaign materials can be placed on the literature table out in the lobby area. This is a forum to hear and question the candidates. It is not a debate between opposing candidates. Each candidate must appear in person and at the time slotted for his or her race. No stand-ins are permitted. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement after the question and answer session. Time limits are strictly enforced. Our timer will give candidates notice at 30 seconds and 15 seconds before their time is ended, so they are informed. Only written questions will be accepted, please. Raise your hand to receive a card on which to write your question or to turn in a card. League screeners review submitted questions in order to avoid duplication, to provide a diversity of questions, and to ensure readability and appropriateness. And finally, we ask the cooperation of the audience in avoiding expressions of support or opposition to any candidate during the presentation time or answers to questions. This only takes time away from the candidates. To quote Thomas Jefferson, "Information is the currency of democracy. May you all be made wealthy by your presence here tonight." Our first group of candidates is running for a seat at the Orange Board of Education. I am, by the way, a proud alumnus of Orange High School. We have 3 candidates running for 2 seats. Please remember to get your questions in. Anne, do we have, did they draw order of speaking? You're seated in order then? Meredith, could you turn your sign ever so slightly? I mean, I want people to see it, but I also need, when the water bottle maybe could come down too. All right, so Beth Wilson is speaking first. The candidates have drawn numbers to determine the order of speaking so that we are not running in alphabetical or anything logical. Beth, you may begin 2 minutes. We need Anne, who is our timer. Anne is wearing too many hats.
Okay. Who does?
All right, you ready? Is ready for her opening statement.
Well, welcome to everyone, and thank you for coming out on this rainy night. Many of you already know me, and for those of you who have not yet met me, my name is Beth Wilson Fish. My husband Tom and I have resided in Moreland Hills for over 16 years now. We have a daughter who graduated from Orange High School in 2013, and actually started here in preschool, so she had that full 14-year experience in our Orange school system. I, too, was very fortunate in having worked here for 17 years. First as a gifted intervention specialist. I was actually hired in 1997 when Orange Schools wanted to expand gifted services down to the kindergarten and first grade level. So I was extremely lucky to have landed here, and later I was lucky enough to become the coordinator of gifted services here in our district for 4 years. I've also now served for 4 years on the Orange School Board as both vice president and president. So I have 21 years here of commitment to the district. I have a bachelor's degree in elementary education from Bowling Green, a master's degree from Cleveland State in school counseling, and then a gifted endorsement as well. And I actually just recently obtained my administrative degree in educational leadership with a focus on school and community relations. I did that after I retired from the school district in 2013, hoping that it would make me a better board member in understanding that. I serve on the executive board for Ohio Association for Gifted Children, and I'm a state and national presenter on numerous topics in gifted education. I currently serve as a gifted education consultant in a variety of local school districts. Just to highlight a few successes of our board in the past 4 years when I have served here, we were very fortunate to have $7.8 million renovation to our Brady Middle School at no additional that goes quick.
We have a request for you to use your microphones, you can be heard, and perhaps to stand,
Okay.
be seen more readily. Meredith Bond, you're up next, please.
you. So people ask me, why are you running for the Orange School Board? Well, let me tell you first why I'm not running. I'm not supporting, and I am opposed to, the initiative to reduce Hunting Valley property taxes. Let me share with you why I am running. Quality education has always been at the heart of my professional life. I've spent nearly 3 decades as an educator and administrator. I've been Dean of the College of Sciences and Health Professions at Cleveland State for over 8 years. And I oversee the success each year of over 3,500 majors with a budget of over $20 million. So my mission is to ensure that our pipeline of students to post-secondary education is prepped for success. I've led efforts to eliminate the achievement gap in algebra and calculus. Our Math Core program for middle school students has produced dramatic increases in math scores. I've also led initiatives to increase retention and graduation rates. And I am in the classroom every week, teaching our course, Introduction to University Life. So success in education requires constant attention to shifting needs. We need innovative thinking. We need diversity of thought. We need to shift gears quickly to respond to economic pressures, but always, always with the guiding light of maximizing student outcomes. So I'm looking forward to bringing years of experience in education to enable us to reestablish top value for our investments in the Orange schools. Thank you.
Ms. Bond and Ms. Waltman.
Right. Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I see many familiar faces. My name is Melanie Weltman, and I'm running for re-election to the Orange Board of Education. I have just a few minutes, but I'd like to tell you a bit about my Orange story. I grew up in this community. My parents moved here a little bit before I turned 3 years old. And I'm a proud graduate and a member of the 13-year club. Here, can you hear me? And a member of the 13-year club. When it was time for my son Ben, our oldest, to start kindergarten, we chose to move back to the community that raised me, largely because of its schools. All 3 of my children attended kindergarten through 12th grade at Orange and graduated. I came to the school board after many years of involvement and leadership in our schools and our community, including serving as elementary and middle school PTA president. I have served for over 6 years on the Board of Education, 2 of those as vice president and 2 of those as president. I have worked on every board committee, including many years on the Audit and Finance Committee and the Academic Committee. I am deeply and personally committed to this community and its children. These aren't just nameless, faceless people to me. These aren't just data points. These are my neighbors and my friends' children and grandchildren. Through my experience and years of engagement, I have developed a deep and detailed understanding of the needs of our children and the justifiably high expectations of our community, including academic excellence without teaching to a test, teaching the whole child, including art, music, athletics, and international engagement, and educating every child. I believe that an academically and fiscally sound school system is the cornerstone of our community. This is what matters to me, and this is why I am here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Turning now to the questions that we are getting, which we seem to have quite a few questions in, so thank you. By the way, my usual pattern, so that nobody is caught off guard by the order of the questions, is I will do 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, so you will always know when you're up first and when you're up last, when you have time to think about it and when you need to go on the fly. That is the challenge, yes, and it'll get harder later with 5. Since school funding is a topic tonight, could each of you speak for a minute about the state of school funding in Ohio, what you think its strengths are, what you think the problems are? And Ms. Weltman, would you like to go first?
Sure, absolutely. There are challenges of school funding in Ohio. I know we're all aware of issues of whether school funding is constitutionally appropriate. Those are challenges that we on our school board don't really address. We address our community and our children. Our schools are largely, almost entirely funded by our community, of which we are very cognizant and very appreciative. And it's our role to be good fiscal stewards of those dollars. As to the larger issue of school funding, I think that's something that other people very justifiably could and should take up. And maybe at another point in my life, I might be interested in that. But right now, I'm interested in this community and its children.
Thank you. Ms. Bond?
So one of the things that I think is most important about being able to get the best value for our investment is to take a close look at how well we are using the dollars that we have. And my concern is not so much how the sources of the money, but how well we are serving our students with the funds that we have. Now, I am concerned because, as we know, the Orange School District is the cost per pupil is higher than any other school district in the state of Ohio. So what I think we need to do is to take a close look at how we can really best make the most value for the dollars that we are all spending and all spending in order to support the school district. So in other words, let's see how we can be as effective as we can with the dollars that we have been provided. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm fortunate to be able to work with different public school districts, and I do see how they use their dollars that they receive from both the state and the community in the most fiscally responsible way. And as we all know, there is a lot of disparity between districts. We are very fortunate here to have the funds to be able to provide a lot of unique programming options for our kids. Programs such as school guidance at the elementary level, and all the way up, as a matter of fact. A full-time registered nurse in every building. We have foreign language and world language programs starting at the very youngest children at our elementary school. It is our task, as Mrs. Weltman said, to use our funds in that fiscally responsible way and to provide our kids with a world-class, stellar education.
Thank you. Starting with Ms. Bond. You have expressed a concern about cost. How do you plan to reduce the cost per pupil? And for the other two, do you feel the cost per pupil is a problem? And if so, what would you do to reduce it? Starting with Ms. Bond.
So, me first? Yes. Well, I would go back and I'd look at the experience that I have had at Cleveland State, and I would say, here is a situation where we have been able to significantly increase the success of our students in many ways. We've also been able to do it with the pipeline of students, the middle school students and the high school students coming into Cleveland State. And what we've been doing, and what I believe we can use the same approach with the experience I have here at the Orange Schools, is to take a really close look at how effective we are with every dollar that we spend in order to be able to benefit the students here. What we have done, and we know that government support, if anything, is going to be shrinking, not growing, as it is for any government agency, for schools, for universities. And we have been able to be thoughtful and take a close look with program prioritization, what is working and what is not. And as a result, that we have been able to do more with less. And that is an approach, I think, that I will take advantage of my experience and use it here with the Orange schools.
Ms. Wilson-Fish?
You know, we talk a lot about cost per pupil in this district because we are at the top of those in the state of Ohio, but I am confident that what we are doing with our money is what is right for our children. We spend more on our direct instruction of our children than, I am so sorry, thank you, than our surrounding districts. We are putting our dollars directly toward the instruction of our children, and we are very proud of that. We, as I mentioned already, have some very wonderful programs that we are able to offer our kids because of the generosity and the support of our community. As a matter of fact, we have proposals coming in all
Attended an audit and finance committee meeting, never attended an academic committee meeting, not one. I don't believe she's ever been in our school buildings and looked at our children and seen the work we do. She has also she never did take the time to attend our board retreat where we spent 8.5 hours plus on a Friday afternoon and a Saturday morning starting at 9 a.m., talking exclusively about academics, our report card, and the finances of this district. 3.5 hours about the finances of this district. And she wasn't there, and she offers no suggestions to you now on how she will cut. I find that questionable. I find it concerning.
Thank you, Ms. Moltmann. Starting with Ms. Wilson-Fish, a two-part question.
Oh, boy.
What do you feel is Orange's biggest weakness, and what accomplishment are you most proud of?
Can you repeat that first?
What is the Orange School's biggest weakness, and what is the accomplishment that you are most proud of the schools?
You know, I have to say, with that, I don't feel that we have a big weakness. I've been asked this question before. We are a stellar school district. I'm not going to look for weaknesses. We all have challenges that we can take a look at, or we have opportunities for growth. We have proven that growth over the past few years, for example, with our state report card. We recognized that as a weakness a couple years ago. We hired a new superintendent whose academic leadership helped our district earn that A on the recent state report card. We are now 24th out of 608 school districts in Ohio, top 4% of all public schools. That is, I'm not going to call it a weakness, it is an opportunity for growth, and we are meeting that opportunity every single year. Part two, what I'm proud of, I have to say, I speak for the board. I think we are all proud of not only this A on the report card and the hard work of our students and staff and leadership in our district, but we also just renovated Brady Middle School at a cost of approximately $7.8 million, and we did not go back to the taxpayers for 1 penny. Yes, it increased our cost per pupil, but let me say it again, we did not go back to our taxpayers to help fund this project. And it is a beautiful building, and if you have not had the opportunity to see it, please do stop by.
Thank you. Ms. Waltman?
Sorry.
I echo Beth's sentiment that I don't see any specific weaknesses. I see we always have challenges. We're continuously working to improve. One of our challenges is explaining to people how we don't teach the test and why we don't teach the test, because we don't believe it's in the best interest of our children. There's not enough time here for me to explain to you in this moment, because I want to make sure I get to the accomplishments, why this is important and why it best positions our children, for example, in math, for their future, for college and beyond. So if a weakness is that we don't teach to the test and it doesn't always look perfect on paper, I think our parents are okay with that. I'm okay with that because we're doing what's best for our children. As far as accomplishments, there are so many, and I'm glad that we mentioned the Brady renovation. I'm very proud of it. It's beautiful. If anybody hasn't been there, please come take a look. It's a fabulous facility now, and we did it at a limited cost to our students, and as Ms. Wilson-Fish said, it did add $1,500 to our per pupil costs, where other districts would have had it in a separate bond issue and wouldn't have had to see it reflected in their per pupil cost. But one example of something I'm very proud of, and this is just one of many, it's just something that hits home with me. I'm a lover of books. I'm a lover of reading and writing and literacy. And one of the accomplishments is the good work we've done at Moreland with Columbia University Teachers College over a number of years. We've done in-services with our teachers over the summer. Over 40 teachers on their own time for 4 days came, 1 year doing reading, 1 year doing writing, and then we had push-in into the classrooms last year. That was after years of sending people there to start piloting the program, and we've seen huge gains, tremendous gains and benefits to our children. Not all of it that you see on a test, but all of it you see and pushes up as they move up through middle school and high school, the ability to read and write at a level that's important for their future. Thank you.
So from what I can see, having walked many of the streets of the neighborhoods in the Orange School District, and having been very fortunate to have conversations with many families, some who have had children in the Orange schools, some who currently have children in the Orange schools, some who haven't. But what I would say is one of the big successes is the alumni that have been produced over many years. All of the graduates of the Orange schools, I think the schools can be really proud of historically over the last few decades, how well they have been able to, the alumni have made really an impact on our society. I've also had the opportunity to listen to the audio of every single school board meeting from start to finish over the last 3 years. So I'm together with the opportunity to talk with folks in the community, one by one, knocking on the doors, and being able to listen to the school board. I think I've been very fortunate to get a good idea of the successes and some of the concerns. Some of the concerns are that while we have an A grade, our proficiency index is actually a B. And the high school, I think, is still struggling. Of course, we're one of the top schools in the state, but what we could do so much better to really the goals, the missions and goals of Orange School District state that we want to have the highest grades on the report card. So I think that that's something that is embraced by the school system itself as they put that out there. So I would also like to see some opportunities for improvement in the math. I've talked a little bit about our ability to really help students with math. I would love to see improvement in that critical 7th grade math score to get it to meet state standards. Thank you.
Thank you. And continuing on that topic, we have a question here, which I just lost, about the math scores. That you, Mrs. Bond, stated, and this question will start with Melanie Weltman to answer. In a world where proficiency in mathematics is critical, there is disappointing math proficiency score for 7th graders, while comparable districts, 7th graders are scoring at 63%, while comparable districts on average are scoring just under 90%. How do you respond to this concern about the math proficiency scores?
I'm happy to respond to that concern. I'd like to add that while Ms. Bond says, and I don't know if it's true or not, that she listened to the recordings of those meetings, I was at those meetings, but what she doesn't know is that many of our reading meetings, the ones I referenced, the academic committee meetings where we talk about our report card, or our audit and finance committee meetings, or our board retreat that I referenced earlier, 8+ hours, 8.5, 9 hours of academic and audit and finance are not recorded. So she didn't listen to those meetings, and she didn't see the materials, and she didn't dive into the report cards. If she had been there, she would know what the issue is with our math scores. And that is that many years ago, when Common Core came into Ohio, there was a decision made collaboratively with parents. There was a lot of concern with the PTA that the state of Ohio's math trajectory, their pathway, would not place our students on a path to success, meaning that the trajectory starting them in algebra in 9th grade, and this is relevant to the 7th grade scores that lead those students to that pathway, would not allow them to get to calculus by their senior year, which is important for many more competitive universities and many STEM and engineering programs. So the decision was made that we would, in the state's view, it had always been the way we had placed our students, have them do algebra in middle school. Therefore, the students in 7th grade are not getting tested the way other schools are being tested. Those are usually our average to sometimes struggling students. There are some very good students in those classes, but only approximately, for example, I can tell you in 9th grade algebra, and it's similar cohort to the 7th grade, approximately 60-some students are being tested. The rest of our students are already in higher level math. So it's not reflected on the report card, and it's not really relevant. She would know that if she had been there.
Ms. Bond, would you like to respond on the question?
Well, again, I know that in this day and age, being competent in mathematics, being prepared for STEM workforce is absolutely critical. So whatever we can do for all segments of the student population, for all across the board, we need to be able to ensure that every student is as well prepared as possible to go on to post-secondary education or to go out in the world and to be so totally facile with and comfortable with mathematics. It's the key to our future. So I can say that the report card is something that the schools take very seriously because it is a way for us to do comparison with other schools and with the trend, how we change over time. And if I may say, one of the things that we need to do as we go forward, we say not teach to the test, but in fact, tests are a part of life. Is it still on? Yep. So, unfortunately or fortunately, we need to be able to, once students get into college, once they apply for college, when they do their first midterm in biology or in calculus, when they do their MCAT exams, they're high-stress, high-status tests, but it's what is best for what students need to do in order for all of us to do well. So I hope that mathematics is absolutely the core. Thank you.
Ms. Meredith Wilson-Fish.
We know that 7th grade math is a concern. We are addressing it comprehensively, beginning all the way down to kindergarten and looking at math as a whole, all the way up to 12th grade. We do this in the academic committee meetings that actually started 4 years ago. It was the first time we started the academic committee, and Mrs. Weltman and I happened to be the first two board members that were part of that, and that was because we had some concerns on the report card overall. That being said, already what has come out of those meetings, which has been discussed in the meetings, is our K-12 math task force that our curriculum director, Karen Moore, is putting into place with the support of our superintendent. We are implementing a guided math program at the elementary building where our consultant has come in and actually worked directly with our teachers and children to begin working on looking for where some of our struggles may be and where some opportunities for growth may be. We even have an online program that kids are going to begin using that we just funded this summer. Don't think that there wasn't discussion about each and every one of these. You know, is this the best way to move ahead financially to put some money toward math and to put some time and professional development with our teachers to ensure that our kids are going to be successful. One thing I will add briefly is keep in mind when you look at those 7th grade math scores, there were approximately 60 kids that took it because so many of our students are accelerated to Algebra 1 and geometry even. And that's something really to keep in mind. And I'm not saying that we accept those, the score of non-proficient, because we've had some very deep discussions, but know that we are working on that collaboratively.
Thank you. And knowing that not all students are going to take calculus, what do you plan to do to promote alternative post-secondary education paths like the trades, starting with Ms. Bond?
For me? So one of the things that we do when we work with students, when we go back into the middle school and high school, is that we provide opportunities for every student to be as successful as possible, ready to move to the next step. That's the most important thing, to be able to be comfortable to make the choice. The trades are one opportunity, but I believe that if there's an opportunity for students to go to community colleges and to go to university, what we do is we spend time with every single student. I gave you an example of how successful we've been, being able to significantly eliminate the achievement gap for students who are about to go into, as freshmen, into calculus and algebra. That's huge. That's something that has been a challenge for us in school and in universities for years. So one of the things that we've been able to do is to be successful with students who might not have even considered going to university, but with the programs that we are offering and that we've been able to fund federally through the National Science Foundation and the National Institutes of Health, we've been able to assist students so that they are ready to be successful in a university environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson-Fish?
We have a wonderful program at our high school called ExcelTech. I know many of you have heard of this great program. It offers a lot of different avenues for our students at the junior and senior level to begin exploring. Conversation, of course, starts earlier, but these opportunities are available to our kids who may want to pursue a different path. I think what's so interesting about this is sometimes our kids, our students are looking at some of these unique programs that we offer, such as the culinary arts or entrepreneurship, yet they're also taking some AP courses or maybe some college credit courses. So they have a wealth of opportunities to explore. This is a collaborative relationship, of course, with some area schools. Our high school happens to house the arts program, which is an absolutely phenomenal program. We have top-notch teachers working with our kids, and if you've ever seen one of our art shows, I mean, what our kids are producing is just absolutely phenomenal. So we definitely do explore that. Thank you.
Ms. Weltman?
I mean, I hate to repeat what Ms. Wilson-Fish says, but we have an extremely robust, currently, and have for a very long time now, program, which is ExcelTech. There are opportunities with other schools to not take a traditional path, which for us, I should say, at Orange is college, but many of our students choose ExcelTech. The counseling is also very robust and begins early, and one of our guidance counselors, Mr. Favazzo, is very directly engaged with this program, very much a support to those students, and our students actually achieve and receive awards in the ExcelTech program. We're very proud of it, and as Ms. Wilson-Fish said, this program also goes to the arts. So there's a theater art program that's housed at Chagrin Falls. The art program is housed at our school, and our children, our students, but they are our children, do exceedingly well out of our program. I know several right now who are at Parsons, Columbia School of the Arts. So our students do phenomenally there. Also, it's notable, since people do want to talk about the report card, and I think it's important, it's a data point. We achieved an A on gap closing, something we're very proud of, and that is for various subgroups where we were able to close that gap. Many schools, very few schools can say that.
Somewhat similar vein, as in non-college. What resources are available for students with disabilities in our district? Ms. Wilson-Fish.
We're fortunate. We have a wonderful support system for our kids. We have not only with what the federal law requires we do, but we do go above and beyond, and we ensure that every single child in our district is successful. We work with them, we work with their aides, we work with families. We have many students who come from this subgroup, and I think our success is very evident in the fact that, as Melanie mentioned, we were able to achieve an A in the gap closing portion of our state report card. So it's something that we're very passionate about.
My turn?
If you have anything to add on the disabilities program.
Yes, it's something we're very proud of, actually, this program. We focus on educating every child. It's our duty, it's our obligation, and it's something we take very seriously. We educate many of these children through the age of 23. That's what a public school is. These are our children. And it's very different, I would say, than something you would see in a private school or a university setting. It's a very different model. The dollars come from our per pupil costs. They come from our tax dollars, justifiably, in my opinion, so, but they don't come from outside sources. We don't get grant funding for all of these programs because we're educating our own children. And I believe we do a phenomenal job at it. We have a phenomenal staff. And it's something that everyone should take note of. It's something we talk about a lot, and we have, in some of our meetings, some of our academic meetings, we'll spend talking about this subject because it is important to us, and it is a focus of our board and of our district.
So I continue to worry that obviously the students who need, special education students, we need to be able to provide the resources. We have an obligation to do so. But again, if we look right now at how we are doing, it's one thing to say that we have phenomenal programs and that our intent is excellent, but the state asks us to achieve their hallmark for what we should achieve with graduation with students with disabilities is 83%. But over the past 5 years, unfortunately, we've seen a decline in the percent of students with disabilities from 81% down to about 64%. So I would say, let's take a look at not just what we're trying to do, but how well we are doing it. And all of this is critical. Let's take a look at the outcomes.
I don't usually do this, but Ms. Wilson-Fish, you were looking concerned. Do you have alternative information that you want to provide, or you were just curious?
Bring about the figures, were those specific to Orange or specific to Ohio, Dr. Bond?
So this was where Orange school districts, how they were achieving, and it was the change in time as opposed to reaching the criteria. It seemed that again, it was a decline rather than reaching.
Student with disabilities?
I'm also unaware of that data point. I don't know where that's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
We're graduating 100% of our students, just about, so
Okay.
that's why I'm concerned.
Yeah, we do have a 100% graduation rate, so that doesn't really add up. I mean, you can look at the state report card and see that.
So,
Speaking of graduation rates, I do have a question here to speak to the requirements for graduation. Is that a fixed requirement, or is that established by the state, or is that locally determined, the graduation requirements? I don't know personally.
They measure graduation. I mean, there are a lot of is that what you're saying? There are quite a few graduation requirements imposed by the state. Yes, and they've changed every year or two, actually. But the state does set criteria for graduation. If that answers your question.
The question is simply, please speak to the requirement for graduation. And my impression is that it's set by the state, it's not.
Yes, and it's changed every year or two, a bit.
And actually, we just had an update, a presentation at last board meeting, October 7th, from our high school guidance team who came and spoke to the new requirements and how there will begin to be a little bit of some local control with some of the new certificates that kids can earn. I know that they also presented to our PTA today, so it is something that we are currently working on. But every year, I do feel bad for our guidance counselors because just trying to keep track of what our seniors require, what our juniors require, and so on. But it's, right now, the ones we are talking about are freshman class and what their requirements will be. That's what's kind of changing. So stay tuned.
Thank you. Interesting question. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control, and the American Academy of Pediatrics are recommending later start times for middle and high school students. Would you agree that this policy would help the behavior and health of our students? And I believe I have lost track now that we're with Ms. Wilson-Fish.
Sure, I will start. Yes, you are right. There is a lot of research out there that shows that our little bit older students would probably benefit from later start time. We actually, I was fortunate enough to be able to be interviewed by one of my former students last spring about this very topic, and it is something that we continue to talk about as a board. PTA, our PTA is, even a couple years ago, hosted a evening of dialogue about a lot of different topics, and that was one of the topics that we are exploring. We know that one of our neighboring districts made that change this year, and it's something we continue to explore.
Do you have anything to add?
Just that it's a topic of conversation. I'm currently liaison to the elementary and middle school PTA, and I was previously liaison to the high school PTA, and I have my own. I'm a big fan of PTA, as you could guess from my PTA experience. It's an important topic to those parents, and it's something we're discussing. It's something I would actually like to take up further. I think it's important, and I think, there are challenges in implementing it. It's not something that's, and we don't need to go into the minutia of that now, but it's something that I think could be workable and is a good idea to look into.
Thank you. Ms. Bond?
Repeat the question one more time, please.
According to the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatricians, students do better with later start times.
Should benefit from?
From later start times, going to school later in the morning.
So I think one of the things is to explore this and to take a look at what is working with our students, take an opportunity to attempt to look for later start times, to explore. What I think we need to do is to be open-minded and to explore new and different opportunities. There's so many ideas that come out there that in the end, what we have to do is test them to see if they work, to provide a sort of a scientific approach, and to also be able to talk to some of our neighboring schools. Which schools have been able to explore this? Let's talk to other schools in the district, but let's also see what's going on. Remember, some of our neighboring schools are ranked in the top 10 in the state. They're doing something that's working really well with their students, to be ranked first, third, sixth for Solon, Chagrin Falls, and Beechwood, Brecksville, Bay Village, Rocky River. They're all ranked in the top 10. We're not ranked in the top 20. So I would say let's take a look at what is new. Let's explore and test, but let's see also what's successful in the other school districts that allows them to be absolutely in the top 10, where we're still struggling to get into the top 20.
Thank you. And the final question, and clearly the most popular one based on the number of cards we received. Recently, representatives in Hunting Valley sought to insert an amendment into the state's biennial budget to significantly reduce their tax contribution that supports the Orange schools. Local officials were able to enlist the governor to line item veto this amendment. However, there are rumors of seeking other bills. in which this strategy could be pursued. What is your position on this effort to defund the school district by Hunting Valley? Ms. Weltman.
Well, obviously, I think, first of all, the manner in which it was handled was just obviously not appropriate, not how I go about my business, late night, trying to slip something through without having any regard for due process or any regard for the other communities. It's something that I was very dismayed about. I believe these efforts continue, and I'm concerned about that. It would have actually devastated our schools. The loss would have been approximately $5.8 million, and there simply wouldn't be room to cut. The burden would have had to be shifted to the other communities, and that is so unfair and so wrong. I don't think there's a good understanding perhaps out there, and I'd love to have more conversations. I know I personally tried to reach out and didn't get a response when I was board president and previous to that. But I would love to discuss these issues because I think there's a misunderstanding about our report card, about the great work that goes on in our schools and the value of our schools, how we teach every child. I think on another note, because I'm first, that separating yourself from these issues, if you're supported by those people and largely funded by those people, is simply not credible.
Please refrain from public comment. You're taking away time.
I have a few extra seconds. And I see things that are put out there by other people, and maybe they're tied to Ms. Bond, or maybe they're not. I don't know if they're surrogates or not. But there are significant factual misstatements in there. There are parsing of words. There are misrepresentations, and there are just things that are actually incorrect. And I think when somebody has such a casual relationship with the truth on these sometimes small details, you have to wonder how they will respond on the bigger issues and whether they have the same relationship with the truth. And I don't say that lightly, but this is an extremely important time for our community, and these schools are very important to me, and this community is very important to me.
Ms. Weltman.
Thank you.
Ms. Bond.
So as I stated when in my opening remarks, yes, I think I'm guilty by address. I live in Hunting Valley. I live about 100 yards from Moreland Hills. I absolutely do not support this approach. I think the way there was just a handful of people. Most of the residents in Hunting Valley were not even involved in this or knew about it. But there was a handful of people who took this initiative. It's not the right way to accomplish anything. It was done stealthily. It was not done in a collaborative fashion. And I have said to those individuals who have started this initiative that I absolutely do not support it, and I still do not support it. My core mission is to help the success of students. This approach and this attempt to reduce the property taxes of Hunting Valley does not support our students. It more likely harms our students. So I was at my goal to utilize my own experience, my very extensive experience in education, my interest in the whole pipeline, all the way from cradle to grave. That's the reason that I'm excited to run. And let's talk a little bit about fundraising. As the Dean of the College of Sciences and Health Professions, every day I think about fundraising, and I've been successful at fundraising. So I went out to look for funds because I want to be able to reach every single resident of the Orange School District. So I utilized my fundraising skills to raise money. So, by the way, the majority of people who have supported me have been outside of Hunting Valley. The majority of the money that has come to support my campaign has been outside of Hunting Valley. So I would just say, I too strongly deny this as a method to support in any way.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson-Fish.
It's nice to hear you say that, because that's not what I saw written in the paper initially.
refrain from public comment.
So, I'm sorry. I think that there's been a bit of a change in conversation initially from not wanting to talk about it to now saying that you did not have a hand in that. But that's past us, as you have said before. I want to reiterate that we are a public school system. So being a public school system and having a variety of communities that make up our public school system, each and every one of our taxpayers have an obligation to support that public school system. If we have a wonderful program here that anybody can come to that resides within the district, and there seems to be a misconception that perhaps if some of our students go to a private school down the road, that maybe that there shouldn't be the same contribution to our public school system. But we all know that that's not how state law reads in Ohio, and it's unconstitutional. I have personally reached out to leaders in Hunting Valley, and it's very unfortunate that I don't even get a reply back. We have been accused of not being collaborative, not being able to communicate, and that is not the case at all. So anyone there, please, from Hunting Valley, if you would please let your mayor know that tomorrow, again, we have a meeting with all of our mayors, and we would love to have them here because we want to have that open dialogue. We do not want to have a combative situation here for our students.
We now have closing statements. Closing statements, which will go in reverse order. Did you want to speak? Oh, sure. So beginning with Ms. Weltman, your closing statement.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Mayor Kathy Mulcahy and the Orange Village Council for having us here tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about our schools, our children, our communities, and we welcome the chance to talk more about any issue or concern in greater depth. My home phone and email are on the Orange website, and if you find me later this evening or reach out to me on those, I will give you my cell phone, just like I give to everyone else. I'm always happy to talk on the phone or meet you for coffee to go into greater depth, because a lot of these conversations aren't 5-minute or 2-minute answers. I could probably go on for over an hour. I'll go as long as you want. I'm very proud of the work we have been part of during my time on the school board. I know firsthand about the excellence that is seen in each building and each classroom throughout the district. And I have firsthand seen the positive impacts and impressive outcomes. There are far too many to mention. As a public school, we continually face the challenges of addressing state mandates that don't always serve our children, making sure that we are committed to the success of every single child, and teaching to the whole child. That's everything beyond academics: art, music, international opportunities, and other extracurriculars, including athletics. We do this all while being good stewards of the resources that are entrusted to us by all of you. I understand this responsibility, these challenges, and the actual people they impact. I feel truly fortunate to be able to give back to the community that has given so much to me and to my family. Thank you, and that's my Orange story.
Ms. Weltman. Ms. Bond.
So the Orange School District has had the reputation of being a true gem in our community. However, today, we're seeing declines in quality of education despite expenditures that are 25 to 40% higher than other local school systems that are ranked in the top 10 in the state. We are not ranked in the top 10. We are not ranked in the top 20. Our gem is losing its luster and is in urgent need of repolishing. Then there's no time to lose. Our students will need to move seamlessly to college or other post-secondary credentialing. They'll need to be prepared to be leaders in tomorrow's economy. They'll be in jobs in artificial intelligence, predictive analytics, telehealth, advanced manufacturing. They'll need to know how to deal with cybersecurity threats. They'll need to know how to deal with the opioid epidemic. They'll need to know how to deal with the accelerating effects of climate change. What will you get if you cast your vote for me on November 5th? You will get a seasoned, experienced educator and administrator. You'll get a board member who will add diversity of thought and diversity of experience and background to the Orange School Board of Education. As a board member, I will work to help us regain our luster. We'll again be a school district where our students and our community will receive true value for our community's investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson-Fish.
Thank you again, everyone, for coming out, and thank you, Mayor Mulcahy and League of Women Voters for being such an integral part of our evening. We continue to examine ways in which we can deliver an exemplary educational experience to our children while continuing to maintain fiscal responsibility. Our taxpayers deserve accountability and prudent spending habits. Our district continues to receive a AAA bond rating, 15 years now, which impacts every community in our school district. Careful oversight of our capital improvement plan and permanent improvement reserve have allowed for wonderful enhancements to our school district infrastructure, including the recent, as we've mentioned, $7.8 million renovation to our middle school and newly renovated secure entrance at our elementary school. There's so many things that we have been able to accomplish together. I can talk firsthand about the wonderful experiences that we provide for our students in Orange, as well as the success of our graduates. I can talk as a parent, I can talk as an employee, and I can talk as a board member. I have been so fortunate to enjoy this 21-year relationship with our Orange City School District. I'm committed to the success of Orange schools, and I count on your support in the upcoming election. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson-Fish. Mayor Mulcahy is asked to speak for a minute.
Thank you to Ms. Bond, Ms. Weltman, Ms. Wilson-Fish. We all applaud them putting themselves out there and wanting to represent us in our very important school district. I want everyone to know, if you didn't hear everything or if you want to hear more, I'm saying this now because I'm sure some of you are leaving. We hope you all stay for the council forum, but if not, this is being streamed, video streaming, and it can be available to watch again. Tell your neighbors and friends who didn't come out tonight that they can watch it at www.orangevillage.com. And if you didn't get enough of the school board tonight, there will be, again, another forum tomorrow night at the Pepper Pike Civic League at the Orange Library at 7 o'clock if you want to learn more. So we will take 10 minutes. At 8:15, the council forum will start. Please don't make a lot of noise in the hallway if you're leaving, and thank you all for coming out. We'll see you on Election Day.
I'm sorry, it's under these circumstances.
Okay, so, okay, for those of you, I guess you're all Orange residents now, I am Mayor Kathy Mulcahy, I am your mayor. I am on the ballot in November. I don't have an opponent this year, so as soon as I vote for myself, I won. But, but I'm available to anyone if you have any questions or you want to come in and talk about anything. We welcome your participation, and we're so glad you joined us here tonight. I'm stalling now just to wait if the technology is working. So again, I will walk around, and Councilwoman Perry is walking around now, passing out 3x5 cards, share pens. We've passed some out, but share. When you've got your questions answered, wave to me, and I'll come get it. And again, I'm going to turn, is there anyone here who wasn't here for the first portion? Then I don't have to repeat everything. Okay. I will turn it back over to our moderator, Wendy During, and we thank the League of Women Voters for handling this for us tonight. All right, thank you, Mayor Mulcahy. We have 6 candidates, just to be sure that it's clear who is running for what. We have Mr. Silver, who is running unopposed for an incomplete 2-year term. I just blanked on what the word for that is, actually. Unexpired, thank you. Unexpired.
Beautiful, family-friendly, and safe. One of my strengths of our community is that many of our children return after college to buy homes and raise their children here. I want to keep it that way for all of us. I have a long track record of making sound financial and management decisions. Over the past 30 years, I have resolved many complex issues and analyzed many types of proposals. As an experienced business leader, I will use your tax dollars wisely to ensure that all investments benefit the village and enhance the quality of life for our community, for our residents. As an executive with several large corporations, including Swagelok, Keithley Instruments, and Rockwell Automation, I was responsible for contract negotiation, financial analysis, and business development. Currently, I'm a local business owner with an office on Chagrin Boulevard. I help American companies market their products in US and in India. We also provide sustainable renewable energy to large corporations in the US. Additionally, I serve on the board of a plastics recycling company. I helped this company raise over $300 million to build its first plant. My experience in renewable energy and plastics recycling gives me the appreciation for the importance of sustainability and protecting our environment. I have a master's degree from Case Western Reserve, and as a council member, I would like to keep Orange fiscally sound by managing the village budget to meet the goals of its community. Thank you.
Vincent.
Mrs. During, Mayor Mulcahy, honored guests, fellow residents, dear friends, good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. I am Stacy Edelman Vincent, and I would like to represent you as your voice on council. But before I go any further, I want to thank retiring council members Frances Kluter and Herb Braverman for their collective 64 years of service to our community. That takes so much heart and passion. Those are traits I share. Like them, I am Orange, and here for one reason, you. The words community connection are truly in my DNA. My connections to Orange started early as a K-12 student and graduate of Orange schools. After a 13-year career as a television news correspondent covering 3 presidents in Washington, D.C., my connections pulled me back home, where my journalism, communication, and investigative skills led to an Emmy Award. My husband and I only considered buying a home in Orange Village, where our sons would attend the wonderful Orange schools, and my Orange connections only grew through the years. President of the Alumni Association, bringing the home back into homecoming by connecting all generations to the community. Substitute teacher and coach, developing the passions of our community children. PTA senior class co-coordinator, bringing senior parents together to celebrate the accomplishments of the next generation of community leaders. Kiwanis and Orange Senior Center liaison, developing relationships with those whose traditions are inherently rooted in our village history. For 10 years, I've worked in the Orange Schools Communications Department, capturing the Orange story for our expanded community through pictures and words. Children know me as the picture lady who asked them to smile.
Connecting through communication is at the heart of everything, and that's my specialty. I want to start monthly trail talks where we meet along the wonderful new trails and talk about whatever's on your mind. Let's make our beautiful park more of a draw by offering programs like yoga and musical experiences. Create a sprinkler park, flower and butterfly gardens, opportunities that will further connect our residents. Or listen to one of our youngest residents who suggested that we start a little free library there. We also must connect to our surrounding neighbors, create a council of councils to collaborate for the greater good. I will listen to you, be that connection and passionate voice. This picture lady wants to make you smile, because like you, I am orange.
Thank you. Mr. Silver.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening. It's nice to see such a large turnout for an event like this. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brent Silver, and I'm running for the unexpired 2-year term that was previously served by Ron Barron before he unfortunately passed away earlier this year. My wife and I moved to Orange about 10 years ago. My wife Betsy is in the audience here today. We have 2 kids, 2 boys who are in 1st and 3rd grade at Moreland Hills Schools. I'm a lifelong resident of Northeast Ohio. I have a degree in business finance from Miami University and an MBA from John Carroll University as well. I have about 20 years experience in the investment management field, all in Northeast Ohio. Currently, I'm a wealth management analyst for a company called the Wealth Center at Meaden and Moore in downtown Cleveland, a local company. I have been active in several committees in Orange Village the past couple of years. I've been on the Finance Committee for the past 2.5 years, the Records Retention Committee for the past 2.5 years as well, which has given me a great experience and great background in seeing the inner workings of municipal government, and I'm looking forward to expanding my experience on council. Orange Village likes to advertise itself as a community for all generations, and I'm very much looking forward to being part of a council that represents that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duber.
Thank you. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Brandon Duber. I've been a member of council for the past 8 years. I'm currently running for re-election for my 3rd term. I also currently serve as council president of our council, which I've served for the last 5 years, since 2015. I was born and raised in Orange Village. I graduated from Orange High School. And now I'm raising my family in Orange with my wife and my beautiful little 8-month-old daughter. While serving on council, I've been lucky enough to have an opportunity to make real concrete differences. And I think that's what a lot of our residents like about me. I come up with ideas, I listen to our residents and their ideas, and I bring those forth to council. Being an attorney, I have a lot of experience with legislation, and which obviously is a benefit for our council. But when I first joined council, back in 2013, 2012, there was great dissension, there was minimal productive action, all the newspaper articles were always about how everybody fights, not about anything that was actually getting done. And my platform 8 years ago was uniting our council and administration, expanding our parks and recreational facilities, improving the services of our seniors, increasing transparency and communication with our residents. And I'm proud that I've actually accomplished these goals. And I'm not doing this to pat myself on the back, but I think it's important as a leader of the community to go ahead and have goals, listen to the residents, and accomplish things. This is being video recorded today because as council president, we went ahead and instituted the video system that we have here. To increase transparency. In terms of our parks and recreational facilities, first thing I did when I was running for council was go up to the mayor and say, hey, you know what, we need recreational trails around the village. She said that this has been tried before, it's never happened. Look where we are today, we made it happen. I think it's the most wonderful benefit to our community. We've also went ahead and done many initiatives for seniors, whether it's
Mr. Duber.
Whether it's helping with the trash or other things. So I could talk all day about accomplishments here, and it's not
Thank you,
just
Mr. Duber.
through our council, and I'm hoping for re-election to continue to serve our community. Thank you.
Mr. Charnas.
Good evening. My name is Alan Charnas. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I also want to thank the other candidates either for their years of service on council or for choosing to run and be involved in our local community. My wife Allison and I moved from New York to Orange Village 16 years ago and are proud to say we have raised 3 wonderful children, Noah, Zachary, and Talia, in this community. We have found Orange to be an outstanding place to raise our family, from the schools to our neighbors and the services offered by our village government. I have had the extreme pleasure of serving as one of your council members since July of this year. The current council interviewed 15 applicants for Ron Barron's open seat, and after hearing the background and experience, chose me to join the council. I am proud to say also that after selecting me earlier this year to serve, that all of the current members of the Orange Village Council have endorsed my candidacy to remain on council for the next 4 years. Some other endorsements include Mayor Kathy Mulcahy, former Mayor Joe Dubiak, and Orange School Board member Jeff Lyken. My experience that I believe set me apart during those candidate interviews were the skills that have allowed me to operate a very successful local-owned and operated real estate development and management business for the past 15 years. I have demonstrated the ability to allocate resources, practice fiscal responsibility, make staffing decisions, and communicate effectively with our employees and customers. Those skills are very similar to what it requires of a successful council person. We are presented with various ideas and issues that have been or could affect the safety and welfare of our residents, different financial concepts and funding alternatives, capital expenditure projects, and development concepts and ideas. As your council member, I will continue to listen to our department heads, our various committees, our legal counsel, and most importantly, our residents. I will continue to ask the right questions in order to vote what I believe is best for the long-term health of Orange Village. I would not be sitting here today as a current council member or a successful small business owner if I did not possess the ability to process information from many different sources and make well-informed decisions. I ask for your vote on November 5th so I can remain on Orange Village Council and continue to give back and make a difference to our great community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chernis. Ms. Kurland.
Hi, my name is Amanda Kurland, and I want to be your councilwoman. I'll be honest, growing up in Cleveland Heights and Beechwood, I had never even heard of Orange Village until I moved here 13 years ago. In that time, I have discovered a community of overwhelmingly warm people, beautiful tree-lined streets, highly responsive and friendly first responders, and a well-maintained park, all with an easy commute to businesses, medical care, and entertainment. Truly a community for all ages. I am running for the Orange Village Council because I know that I have a lot to give to the community. I have always believed strongly in community service, and what better place to focus my energy than on the village where I live. I have held numerous leadership roles in both business and charities and charitable organizations. In business, I have hired, trained, and supervised staff, along with negotiating vendor contracts and leases. For charitable organizations, I have organized successful fundraising events while maintaining a tight budget and helping ensure accountability through careful review of practices, policies, and data. I am an independent thinker who also works well in a group, finding common ground with others without compromising my principles. The businesswoman in me puts the emphasis on economic development. Growing our tax base will enable the village to extend the recreational trails and work on projects that will enhance community services. The community activist in me puts the emphasis on maintaining dedicated green space. It is important to retain the rural feeling of the village and give the deer and coyotes somewhere to hang out besides my yard. The mom in me puts the emphasis on safety. Living in a community with top-notch first responders is a major priority, as are the recreational trails, which provide a safe path for pedestrians away from traffic. It's all three of these qualities, businesswoman, activist, and mom, along with being a great listener, that will enable me to address the village's needs. I love living in and raising my children in Orange Village, and I want to work with you, my fellow residents, to maintain this awesome treasure that we all call home.
As I did for the school board candidates, I will attempt to go in order. And if you don't have an answer for the question, or if you feel it's already been asked and answered, you're free to pass. You don't have to speak. Although I find candidates are always compelled to speak. Since we just heard from school board, I will open with a school question. The questioner believes the success of a school system affects property values. How do you see yourself as a village council person supporting the Orange schools? Starting with Ms. Kurland.
I pay my taxes. I really do very much. I think as a homeowner, it's really important, to support the local schools. It helps maintain not just your home value, it helps maintain the whole community. I think that having strong schools is extremely important, whether or not you send your children to the schools. In fact, I will say that I send my children to Jewish day school, and it's a religious choice. It has nothing against the Orange school system, but I do intend to send them to Orange High School because I know that it's a fabulous school, and I'm very happy to be in this district.
Mr. Chernis?
Well, I think the main thing that is involved with the village councils of all the communities, and especially Orange Village, with our school, is to really collaborate and communicate with the schools. We obviously have very different budgets that we are dealing with, but what's important for them to know is that when we're making a decision, how it affects the schools, and when they make a decision, how it's going to affect, our various residents. So, communication, I think, is very important. Collaboration is the most important thing that we can do, and working with each other and working with all the various communities to understand and make sure we're all going into the same direction, because as the question stated, obviously, all of our property tax dollars go towards both our village and the schools, and it's important that, the residents understand how those dollars are being spent and how we're looking out for those dollars in the best interest of Orange Village.
Thank you. Mr. Duber.
Thank you. Prior to me being on council, there was very little connection between the schools and Orange Village. When Mr. Barron joined council, everybody knows his wife, Mrs. Barron, is a teacher, and Mr. Barron was indicating that he was going to the school board meetings, and that's when I, as council president, decided that a good committee would be the school board committee. And Mr. Barron went ahead and headed that, and it really gave a better understanding for council as to what's going on in the schools and vice versa. And that came in, very importantly when Pinecrest came about. When Pinecrest came about, obviously there was discussions about a TIF. There was discussions about, how would any of the development affect dollars to the Orange schools. And because of Mr. Barron attending those meetings and our understanding of that, we were able to make an informed decision on Pinecrest to make sure that not only were the schools not going to be impacted or de-impacted, I guess, negatively, but that it would be impacted in a wonderful way.
Thank you, Mr. Duber.
Thank you.
Mr. Silver.
Repeat the question one more time. I just want to make sure
I can try. Since schools impact the value of properties, what would you, as a village council person, do to support the schools?
Okay. The main reason that, when my wife and I were looking to move about 10 years ago, the main reason we chose Orange Village was for the schools. We knew they had a great reputation, and we knew it was something that we wanted to be part of. We do have, like I mentioned earlier, 2 kids currently in the system, 2 boys in 1st and 3rd grade. We couldn't be happier with the schools. We've both been very active and involved in the schools, and we would like to see that continue. I know Ron Barron was very involved with the school board, and I think that would be a great role for me, having 2 kids in the school system, being some sort of a liaison between Orange Village and the Orange School Board.
Ms. Vincent.
No one has closer ties to the Orange schools than I do. I've worn every hat there. I've attended there. I'm an alumni there. I'm past president of the Alumni Association. We only chose Orange schools for our students. When my family had moved to Solon, we stayed here in Orange for the school system. I've substitute taught in the schools. I have been, and obviously I currently work in the schools in the communications office, dealing with our extended communities on a daily basis, solving problems, working to work out issues, and doing what's right for our extended community of Orange Township. I first decided to run when Ron Barron passed away because I loved that he was our tie to the schools. We hadn't had that before. And I said, I want to fulfill that role, and no one can be a closer tie to the schools than somebody who knows it backwards, forwards, up and down, and every which way. If there are questions to be answered, I know who to go to, I know how to get the questions answered, and I know how to make the Orange schools available to everybody in our village, regardless of if you send your students there or not. And I'm the only candidate also that has students in the Orange schools right now. So I love the Orange schools, and I encourage you to allow me to fulfill Ron Barron's role in that way.
Mr. Comet.
Yeah. I have been with Orange, attending Orange School board meetings for the last 3 years. I was attending that with Ron Barron when he was still alive, and over the last, I would say, 3 years, we got my wife elected to the school board, and we've been very active in the election, in the process. So it's been a great opportunity to learn about what the schools are doing.
Thank you. This next question will begin with Mr. Charnas. Nothing says governance like sewers. The other 2 forums that I did for city councils, the questions were all about water mains, so little difference. What would you recommend for sewer extensions and removal of septic systems to improve water quality?
Well, that's obviously a large question in this village, knowing that I think the stat is that I still believe that about 75% of the village is on a septic system, if I'm correct.
50/50.
Okay, so about 50%, I might have been misinformed, but, so that is a large expenditure that, can only be tackled over a long period of time. New development, obviously, we're able to, and maybe it might be 50 because of all the recent development has increased the ability of people to access the sewer, but I think it involves a lot of understanding of the current versus the future and versus the cost that it's going to be related to the village versus the cost to the residents. I know our administration and our departments are very good, very successful at accessing as many grants as possible from state and federal monies, and if there's anything available, obviously we will do everything in our power to access that and hopefully reduce the cost, that if we were going to extend that sewer system, reduce the cost as much as possible to any residents.
Mr. Charnas. Mr. Duber.
Thank you. It's interesting, you talk to residents in the heartland of Orange, and, a lot of them love their septic systems, and some have the opposite opinion. So I don't have septic, so it's hard to really get a feel as to if it's something that everybody wants. But I know that a lot of people have asked me this over the years, and I know that the village has made a lot of strides in connecting, and some of the newer development has helped with that. The administration and our residents are always collaborating in ways to try to get the sewers extended. So I think obviously down the road, as time goes on, there will be more and more connection to the sewer system. But I do know that there's many residents out there who are enjoying their septic. So thanks.
Mr. Silver?
I think it's something certainly to explore further down the line. I think it's important to listen to the residents, hear what they have to say about it, how they feel about it. It's something that I need to educate myself on as well going forward, because I don't have a whole lot of experience in sewer, in sewer, so.
Ms. Vincent?
In wanting to be your community connection, one of the first things I did was go door to door asking people what they want, what their vision is. And one of the first residents I spoke to, who is in the audience tonight, mentioned this as an issue, that they wanted to tap into the public water system and not have what the current situation is. And they said, they lamented that sometimes they felt like being on a side street, they're overlooked, that they're not in one of the big developments in Orange Village. And I think it's crucial that we open the lines of communication with those folks who do want to tap in and not have to spend a fortune to be able to do so. I obviously have to continue to educate myself in what's available and what we can do, but it's certainly high on my priority list to at least allow them the opportunity to open this discussion and open this communication to see if that's something they can do, if that's something they're interested in.
Sewer systems has always been an issue. What happens more often is that the tanks start leaking and it messes up the whole area. So I have been involved in sewer systems for a long time, and there are ways to improve it and modify the tanks so that it can help the community.
Thank you. Ms. Kurland?
As my fellow respondent said, I think that it is a conversation that I've had with a number of people walking door to door. Some people want, some people don't want. I think that it's something that needs to be researched further. I mean, I love the idea if you can get grants to help pay for it, but in most communities that they've switched over to, from septic to sewer lines, it's a huge assessment for the individual, and so it's a bigger discussion than just the council. It really would have to go before the residents who it would affect, because it could be a lot of money for them.
Next question, we'll start with Mr. Duber. I have several questions here, concerns of safety with where the trail intersects with streets and visibility is limited, where the children are walking without sidewalks. and bike riders in the streets, specifically at Brainerd and Lander? What can we do to increase safety?
Well, so our police department, actually, we've worked with them a lot over the years, and our police chief, Chris Casser, is phenomenal. And, you know, we've discussed a lot of these different issues, some of them prior to the trails. In terms of bike riders, I know it's a common, you know, complaint that non-bike riders have. You know, unfortunately, it's actually safest for them to be riding on the road. When the police do see them riding in a manner that obstructs the road, our wonderful police officers do go ahead and give a heads up to them. And, you know, it's a constant reminder, unfortunately, something like that. In terms of the trails, is they're progressing and continue to be built. You know, there's going to be more connections, there's more and more safety. They're all handicap certified at all the crosswalks, and we're going to continue to look at all the safety mechanisms for that. We just passed legislation recently discussing what kind of motorized or non-motorized vehicles are allowed on the trails to make sure that the trails are in fact recreational trails, that they're not, you can't go ahead and take a moped on them, stuff like that. So some of this stuff is new, and you know, it's a learning curve for everybody, but our police department and the administration and council is doing a great job, I think, so far.
Mr. Silver?
I think the trails have been a wonderful addition to the community. I think pretty much everybody would agree with that. They are still, in terms of a user standpoint, a work in progress. We're still kind of all getting used to having them. And I think that the service and the safety forces are still getting used to having them as well. And I think it's important just for them to make sure that, you know, there are no obstructions and trees in the way and people are using them properly. In terms of bikers and the bicyclists in the road, you know, they have their rights too on the road. I think it's been an issue for a long time in a lot of different communities. Unfortunately, we all need to respect the fact that they have the same rights that everybody else has in the roads as well. It's important for everyone to realize that, and it's important for them to realize too that when they ride, you know, a couple people wide, that there can be implications of that as well.
Our first responders here in Orange Village are second to none. I've seen them in action many times, and I so appreciate the work that they do. Recently, I experienced when there was a fire, and it was found by one of our patrolmen just patrolling the streets and discovered a spark and brought in the fire department to save that house, in effect. That said, I'm concerned that the Cleveland Magazine Rating the Suburbs issue rated us 8th, which was up from no ranking before in just overall suburbs, and 40th in safety. The issue is much longer than I could possibly speak about in 30 seconds or whatever I have left, but it's top on my concern list. I want to educate people. I want to talk to the young and old about phone scams that are going on. I want to be able to look into what's available to make sure that the security, that there's additional patrolling if need be, if there are security cameras needed to prevent incidents like we've had in the past, then let's look into getting that. Nothing is too much or too much of a concern when it comes to safety. That has to be our top priority for our youngest, for the people my age, and for our oldest in our community.
It is great to see so many people using the trails and walking and using bicycles all around. It's great to have individuals involved in that. And now there are trails going on Harvard, and that's amazing. That's really good things happening.
Roland?
I think safety is the most important issue, honestly, for, you know, as a mother, but as anyone, you know, we want to be safe. I think we do have awesome first responders, and I love the recreational trails. I love watching people walk on them all the time. You drive around. I think that extending them further, which is in the plans, is a great idea and the most important thing for safety. And walking around talking to people, that is one of the things that's brought up the most often in neighborhoods where there are not sidewalks. They say, you know, when there's a landscaping truck, my kids have to walk around it, and a lot of times it's a near miss. So I really get that that's an urgent thing that we are capable of taking care of.
Thank you. Mr. Charnas?
Well, my wife was a preschool educator, so I've learned and I've heard the term safety first many times. The recreational trails, I think, was a great start and has been a great addition to our community, and what was one of the things proposed was for the safety. My wife and I, enjoyed walking to Eaton before there were recreational trails, and we used to have to walk on the street, and it was never a safe way to walk down our streets and get to various places. So I think it's a positive. As with any new progress, there's going to be challenges, and I think, we as a village can overcome those. I don't think it's necessarily that we throw money at that challenge, but it's just more of a, we look at the situations. We propose some legislation about requiring sidewalks in all new communities. Hopefully that will be discussed again at some point. As Brandon mentioned, we passed legislation about what is and what is not allowed on those safety trails. So we as a council are doing what is right to make sure safety is a top priority, and we listen to our department heads, which is, our police department.
Thank you. Next question, starting with Mr. Silver. Much of the campaign literature expresses a need to balance economic development with preservation of green space, usually leading with economic development. Would you speak to your priorities?
Yeah, I think that is probably, if not the most, one of the most, if not the most important in Orange Village right now. Pinecrest opened up last year. I think it's been a wonderful addition to Orange Village. You're seeing the new hotel going up across the street on the other side of Harvard Road right now, and the restaurant that's going in there as well. There is some further land to the east of there that could be open for development in the next couple of years as well, and I think it is very important to make sure we do balance further development with fiscal responsibility. I think it's important that we make sure we don't lose the charm and the character that Orange Village has become, has been known for the past several years. So I think it's like I said, I think it's the most important issue facing Orange Village right now.
Vincent.
Thank you. If you look at our master plan from 2018, it very specifically states the whole goal is to retain essential land use pattern and characteristics of the village while celebrating the economic benefits of development. I think you have to have a happy mix of both. We moved to the village because of its charm, because of its characteristics, because of its green space, and we don't want it to become a city. We're getting close. We're at 3,300 people right now. At 5,000, we become a city. We like the development of Pinecrest. We think it has done wonders, and it's nice for my kids to have some place close by that they can go to restaurants and go hang out and enjoy those kinds of things. But I think with the 80-plus acres that we have left, I think it's crucial that we maintain that sense of green space, the 50 acres that we're looking at putting in perpetuity for green space forever. I think that's crucial. I think any additional development that remains, we need to look at very, very closely and rein it in so that it doesn't infringe on the green space that we so desperately love and need here in Orange Village.
Mr. Comment?
For us, it's very important to save green space because what has happened over the past so many years, we have done Pinecrest, we have done development across the street on Harvard, and the 80 acres that's left, we should really look at how do we protect that space. We are also doing a lot of work in on Brainerd in the Orange Hill Estates. So we need to manage the development that's going on so we can protect green space.
Ms. Kurland.
Yeah, I think that the economic development, meaning Pinecrest, has been fabulous. It has allowed us to have these recreational trails. But at the same time, as we're discussing, green space is very important. We want to retain the beautiful village the way that it is. We want to have the wildlife and have it have a place to be. And so I love Mayor Mulcahy has a plan to try to retain 50 acres as dedicated green space. And so, as other people have mentioned here, I think that that is very important. It's important for the feel of our village, and it's important for our safety.
Mr. Charnas.
As the question, was presented, which is it's on a lot of campaign material, right? Because it's not a cut and dry question. It's not, there is nothing being presented today of what's going to be developed. So it's hard to necessarily answer that question. What you have to do is weigh many factors. There's landowners who want to potentially sell their property for the highest dollar amount. There's developers who want to develop it in a certain way that, that they may see a fit. And there's our residents who want certain things. And what's important with anything that I have found in my business is you have to weigh all the factors. And again, what is the ultimate goal for all of us in this room is to maintain our property values at a current or higher value, and provide services to the residents. So what did Pinecrest do? You know, there was people who were against it, people who were for it. Well, one of the things that council did, which was important, was they looked at what can we, you know, what are some benefits we can get out of it, and that's how we got the recreational trails. So again, it's something that you have to work with each other, and green space is obviously always important, and you have to trust the fact that that everyone's rowing in the same direction when it comes to those type of issues.
Mr. Duber.
Thank you. I've seen this on a lot of campaign literature, and while I feel like I'm maybe patting myself on the back, you know, this is actually my record. I think if you were to ask council who's the most skeptical of development and who scrutinizes development the most with kind of a twisted eye, I think it would probably be me. You know, while I'm in favor of some development, it has to be the right thing for Orange. And, you know, there's other concerns that come along with that, such as traffic and whatnot. I think I'm probably a little bit of the hippie in the group too, in terms of preservation of green space. We did go ahead just earlier this year and review and modify our master plan, which did go ahead and call for more green space preservation than we previously had. In the hippie with me too, I was proud that I led Orange Village in becoming the first community in Ohio to ban plastic bags. So this is my record, and you know, I'm glad that everybody here has that same idea, because, you know, hopefully I'll continue on council, and I love the fact that other members, council, are going to come onto council with that idea as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, short question, might be a longer answer. How do you feel about tax abatements?
So one big lesson as I've been going through this, and this is a hard one to begin and explain in 1 minute as well. When you start the campaign, and there are so many numbers that are thrown at you and so many things that come at you, and you have to look at all of the proposals that are out there. I know I talked with the mayor and I talked with others about how we can lower our taxes and how we can look at ways, how is Pinecrest helping us to save money. And the one thing that I did hear from her is that there's a potential in the future to be able to at least not raise our taxes yet and be able to work with the money that Pinecrest is developing and coming our way to be able to help us and help our bottom line as we go.
Tax abatements are an important part of doing business as a village, but it's also important to make sure that we protect what we are paying into the city. So it's important that we manage that really well.
I mean, I think tax abatements can be a very important tool in creating development. I just, you know, it's different in different situations. I don't think it's an answer you can give, just an answer that's across the board. It's something that is individual situations. You have to know what the long-term, you know, results are going to be and really analyze it and realize where you're going to end up. So there are times that tax abatements absolutely make sense and other times that they don't.
And you know, it's a very complicated issue, tax abatements. One of the languages in it is, if not for, has to be met in order to do a tax abatement. So development like Pinecrest would not have been done if not for a tax abatement. But what is important is what can you work with the developer as well as the residents, as well as the schools to get out of it? What do we get out of it? We got residential, you know, the recreational trails. The school got a brand new auditorium as part of that deal to make sure that dollars were flowing back into our community that might not be straight tax dollars, but give us things that, you know, that are needed or wanted that might not have been afforded, you know, and couldn't have been afforded otherwise. It also puts us, you know, which I think is a good thing, in balance with and making us want to see Pinecrest be successful. If Pinecrest is successful, we as a village will be, you know, sharing in that success in a way, shape, or form. So I think it's a very important thing in the right situation. And again, that language, if not for, is always important. You can't just give out a tax abatement when a development may have been feasible without one.
Thank you.
I think commonly there's some confusion between a tax abatement abatement and something like tax increment financing. It's not a flat abatement when you're doing some of these economic development plans. It's essentially that the tax dollars are used for infrastructure. So, you know, in terms of just a flat abatement, I don't see many instances where that's necessary. And I don't think that's the village's position ever, that we just go ahead and abate taxes. Tax increment financing, like what we did for Pinecrest, was completely different than a flat abatement. I think basically what you have to do, especially with tax increment financing, is you balance the future dollars, you know, what revenue you'll have in the future versus, you know, what we need right now with current revenue. And, you know, you have to look at the potential that if you don't go ahead and allow a TIF, that the development might not come to Orange. So there's a lot of weighing factors there. But in terms of a flat tax abatement, it's something that I'm not in favor of. I don't believe Orange Village administration is in favor of, and that's not something that I believe we've done at all since I've been on council in 8 years.
Thank you.
Tax abatements are tricky and complicated, and I think it's important to tread carefully when you're dealing with tax abatements. There's lots of projects that have been realized and accomplished because of tax abatements, and projects in certain municipalities have been lost because of tax abatements. With the development of Pinecrest recently, and any future development in Orange Village would certainly not be on the scale of Pinecrest, would be on a much smaller scale, so I'm not sure that tax abatements would really be on the front burner going forward.
Small information-seeking question for the two incumbents, assuming that you would be the only two who would be able to answer this. What is the plan for the lot just east of Brainerd that the city is presently using to store dirt from the trail project?
You want to go, or you want me to go?
The picture where that,
I would like to answer that question if I can. So that's not something, obviously, that I had a part of, and obviously it's been an issue. It sits right almost in our backyard, or side yard, I guess you should say. It's between the Stonebrook area and Orange Hill, and it's an eyesore, is the reality of it. I know the intent was good, and I think the biggest problem with that was the lack of communication to the residents that were most directly affected. And I think had the lines of communication been opened up earlier, that everybody was understanding, but they wanted to see something done with that area, and they didn't want to lose their safety, their blockade from the Miles Road area. They didn't want to lose the green that they had there, and so it was really important to have that communication to figure out what to be done in advance to work it out. I do know that there's going to be planting there, that they will be adding trees there, and they will be adding future growth in there so that it will eventually be covered, but it was a hard way to come by that.
I talked to a resident who lives right by there, and he was really upset. So, you know, I think he's already talked to the mayor about it, and hopefully it'll get resolved in the next, I would say, few years. But it'll take a while to get that resolved.
I'd just like to point out that that wasn't a council decision. Council was not aware of this. I wasn't aware that that happened until it actually happened. And I'm not going to sit here and point fingers. You know, what's happened. But I do know that and the mayor raised her hand, so she's taking the. But I do know that, you know, the village is doing everything that they can to remediate that with future plantings. I agree with everybody here that it's an eyesore, and I don't think it's the right way that it should have been done, but the past is the past, unfortunately, but that is not something that council was ever aware of. Obviously, if somebody had mentioned that to me, hey, this is what we're going to do, I would have, you know, jumped up and down.
and I too have no comment. That was never discussed in council meetings that I've been at.
I apologize for my assumption.
No, that's okay.
Council ran everything. Final question before we go on to closing statements, starting with Mr. Kamat, sorry. What do you feel are the top two issues or opportunities facing the Village of Orange?
I think the key issue is how do we manage the green space within our community? I think it's important over the next few years as these developments are happening, we are able to manage how we spend the 80 acres that we have left, or the number of acres that we have left, and keep it so that we have a walking space, we have a good environment to hike, so that needs to be managed for our residents.
Thank you. Ms. Curran?
Safety is always a first priority. I love, like I said, the recreational trails, and I want to keep extending those where we can. And the way to do that is through economic development, or at least having Pinecrest continue to grow the way that it has been, and preservation of green space, as we've all discussed, is part of helping to keep our beautiful village be the way that it is.
Thank you. Mr. Charnas?
I think that the top issues are always, safety and, with our increasing growth of our community, with our, the new development, how are we going to, meet those safety? We've already, last council meeting, we approved a hiring of an additional police officer based on the needs presented to us by the police department. So I think we're continuing to do that and meet those safety requirements. And, how are we going to manage the growth, whether it be economic growth that we have? How are we going to manage our aging infrastructure? This building, it's just beautiful. It's been here, I think, 25 years. Buildings like this, at a certain point that they need capital improvement. And do we have, the fiscal responsibility to manage those and be able to continue to provide excellent service to all of our residents without raising taxes?
Mr. Duper?
Thank you. These are all good ideas. Obviously, everything comes down to balancing development and controlling traffic and preserving environment. I think that as council, we need to continue to do things that are a little bit outside the box as well. Again, I'm very passionate about the environment. I was so proud of what our council did in terms of the plastic bag ban, and then it was great. Cuyahoga County followed our lead with the exact same language that we had, and I think that's, and several other communities have as well. I've spoken to countless newspapers around who've asked us about our ordinance, and then you see that ordinance follows in other communities. And I think we need to continue to do that. We need to continue to look at not just our generation, but other generations. What can we do to lessen the impact for the future generations? Trees and preservation is great, but we have to look at other environmental issues, whether it's, obviously the recreational trails were great, hopefully less cars on the road, but also look at, do we go ahead and look at plastic straws? Do we look at takeout containers? Do we look at all kinds of other things? I think we need to keep looking forward. I think we need to keep looking forward on all these things and think not just about today, but think about the future as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Silver?
Like I mentioned earlier, I've been on the Orange Village Finance Committee for the past 2.5 years or so, and right now Orange Village is in a very strong place fiscally and from a financial standpoint. I think it's very important to keep that going forward. Pinecrest has certainly been a big contributor to that. And, to echo what the other candidates have said, I think it's important to balance future development with maintaining the green space that we have. Pinecrest has been wonderful. I think everybody enjoys it. We still have Eaton not too far away. We might have other development on the Beachbrook site, not too far from here as well. So I think it's just very important to be prudent with any future development within Orange Village.
Common threads are, you've heard them already, but it's basically fostering a viable competitive edge to enhance our lifestyle and property values while still maintaining financial stewardship is crucial. Obviously, the concerns over further development of Orange Village related to traffic and green space and safety, all while still ensuring our blueprint as a community for all generations, is absolutely key. I think beyond the issues, and we know those are issues that we're all going to be exploring, or whoever is fortunate enough to be selected for council will be exploring, but I think we need to look at those little things that make the difference that I've heard through communication with the residents, things like what I said with the trail talks, or the free library, or the flowers in the butterfly garden, enhancing the dog park. How many times have we heard that they want a swimming pool in Orange Village? Programs in the park. I'd love to have a theater in Orange Village, a theater. We have so many people that are so talented looking for venues to perform. Bathrooms in the park has not been discussed, but I know it's on the list for the near future. So there's so many wonderful things, and the least of which shouldn't be enhanced social media, so that we're able to communicate all these wonderful ideas. Thank you.
And now we move on to closing statements, and going in reverse order, starting with Ms. Kurland.
I want to thank Mayor Kathy Mulcahy for arranging this night and for writing a kind quote for my campaign. I also want to thank Councilwoman Lisa Perry and Councilman Herb Braverman for their endorsements and words of wisdom. Councilman Scott Bilski and Councilwoman Frances Kluter also gave me invaluable advice and encouragement. I also owe a debt of gratitude to all the residents whose signatures put me on the ballot. I am so thankful for the opportunity to be here tonight and to serve the community in the future. In fact, regardless of the outcome of the election, I plan to continue being a regular at council meetings, and I've requested to serve on the Village Finance Committee. I am someone who believes strongly in community service. It's why I teach my children to give financially, and often more importantly, to give time back to make the world around us a better place. I am a problem solver who loves the challenge of identifying an issue and working to resolve it. Both issues and opportunities are discovered through open communication, and I intend to engage the residents as much as possible to learn of individual situations and ideas that might benefit the greater community. I want to bring my skills to the village, but I also want to hear you. In fact, many of you have already met me on your front porch. I am here to make sure that your concerns are addressed and Orange Village meets all of our needs. My high school yearbook quote, which was picked for me, is "Be a man," which sounds horrible, but what it means is, when others won't stand up for what is right and what needs to be done, be the person who will. I vow to always be that person. On November 5th, vote to keep our village beautiful, vote to keep our village safe, vote to keep our village prosperous, vote to keep our village amazing, vote Crowland for council.
Thank you. Mr. Charnas.
So I became more interested in our local government during the period of discussions regarding Pinecrest and how it was going to affect all aspects of our community, including the increase in our tax base, new service and safety requirements, and ultimately its effect on all of our residents and our village character. My career in real estate development and management required that I attend many council meetings, planning and zoning committee meetings, and individual meetings with mayors and council members all across Northeast Ohio. As the owner and managing partner, it was my responsibility to understand the zoning codes, planning requirements, and local charters in order to successfully develop and operate our facilities with the support of local government and, more importantly, the residents of those communities. I realized during that time that the most authentic elected officials were the ones that used reason and common sense in their problem-solving and decision-making. As your council person, I promise to stay true to what brought me such success in my business and use my common sense and reasoning in making decisions that will have a positive impact on all of our residents. This experience working with elected officials and residents in other communities made me want to become more involved in our local community government. I was appointed in 2018 as a Charter Review Commission member, where we reviewed the village charter and discussed ways we can improve upon our existing regulations. After 3 months of meetings, we recommended 11 amendments, all of which were approved by the voters. At the end of the day, what really matters again is how can we retain or increase our property values while offering services that our residents want and need. It is with those concepts in mind that I will listen to ideas and legislation and make the best decisions possible that will maintain and increase our property values and provide services so we can continue to meet our village motto and be the community for all generations. My experience on Orange Council and Charter Review Commission, along with my experience growing and running a successful business, uniquely qualifies me to retain my seat on Orange Village Council. It has been such a pleasure meeting many of our residents over the months of this campaign, and I look forward to continuing to serve as your council member for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duper.
Thank you. Unlike most of the other candidates tonight, with the exception of the incumbent, Alan Charnas, I'm running on my record. I'm not running on a platform. And listening to everyone here tonight, it appears that their platform is my record, which is wonderful, because I see how everybody here, all these members, I think they'd all be wonderful for council, and everybody wants to continue and maintain Orange going forward. I'm happy that Orange is in a great position moving forward. I'm happy that our finances are phenomenal. I'm happy that the trails are going in. I'm happy that we're increasing services to seniors. I'm happy that we initiated the Do Not Knock registry. I'm happy with everything that is going forward. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not more that we can do, because there's always more, and listening to residents and what they want is what we do. And I'm proud to say that's what I've done on council. I listen to residents, I go ahead and we discuss this in council, and we try to provide legislation that improves the lives for everybody. Again, it's about every generation here. It's about my 8-month-old daughter. It's about the senior residents. It's about the developments, but we can't forget about the heartland as well. There's residents who have been here for, technically, I guess, kind of 40 years I've been here, but there's been residents who have been here for, 50, 60, 70 years, and they can't be forgotten. So we have to think about their interests as well. I look forward to being reelected for my third term this November, and I look forward to being the second most senior member of council when that happens. So,
Thank you. Mr. Silver.
thank you.
First of all, I want to, again, thank everybody for coming out this evening. We had a wonderful turnout, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for moderating tonight's event. I'm looking forward to joining Orange Village Council here in the next few months. I think when I do join council, you'll find someone that has a great analytical mindset, that's a very good listener, and has a wonderful ability to see both sides of every issue and make an informed decision based on that. And I look forward to serving you as a member of Orange Village Council, and good luck to all of the other candidates as well.
Ms. Vincent.
We are all here for one reason. We love Orange Village. We want to continue to see it thrive. What that direction is differs for each of us in small ways, but collectively, we all love our town. It is great as it is, but I want to aim for extraordinary. I can only do that with your help. Talk to me, call me, email me, message me. Communication is key, and I am accessible to you. In fact, I'm the one who suggested that this event be live streamed to make it accessible to all of our residents. Let me be your voice on council to take your ideas and run with them. For years, I've had the experience building bridges between the different generations, from the youngest, who often have the most creative visions, to the wise senior citizens who carry the traditions and history of our village on their backs and in their souls and want to know they're being heard. I relish the opportunities to work with both of these generations, and of course, all the centennials, millennials, Generation Xers, baby boomers in between. I got into this campaign because Ron Barron ignited a charge to change, to be the connection to the schools, to never be complacent, to face challenges head-on, to be a resource, to go above and beyond as an advocate for you. I have become increasingly invigorated by the amazing neighbors I have met going door to door, residents who have the vision to make a difference but don't know where to start. Start with me. My independent voice will sound out loud and strong on your behalf. Please check out my website, and I have a logo, but bit.ly/Vincent for Orange Village, and there you can see more about my platform. You can see more about me. You can read about my endorsements. You can see the Monday Night Video endorsement series that has lots of familiar faces that you'll recognize. And most importantly, you can connect with me to let me know what your visions are. I'm not running for a council seat. I'm running to be your representative and voice. People who know me know that my heart is full of passion for all things Orange. Allow me to bring that heart and passion to all Orange Village Council. I thank you for your ideas. I thank you for your support. I thank you for your vote for Stacey Edelman Vincent on November 5th. Together we are Orange, and together we will be extraordinary.
Thank you.
I want to thank Kathy Mulcahy for setting it up. We really appreciate that. I want to put my experience to work on behalf of Orange to ensure that our village has strong financial foundation while preserving the natural beauty and services that make Orange a great place to live. I want to maintain the quality of our life of Orange Village so that it will continue to be the kind of place where our children return to raise their children. To accomplish this goal, we need the right balance between new business development and preservation of green space. We need to maintain a high-quality suburban amenities along with our country ambience. Our public schools are strong and well-funded. The district just received an overall rating of A on the state report card. It currently ranks in the top 3% nationwide, and I want to keep it that way. The most important thing we can do in the community is to educate our children and prepare them for the future. Strong schools keep our community a desirable place for young families and current residents. As many of you know, I am a strong advocate of civic engagement, and I'm pleased to see so many people involved in the upcoming election. Many of you know, because of my volunteer efforts in support of quality candidates and increased voter registration and turnout. I was privileged to support former councilman and good friend Ron Barron during his successful campaign for village council. This involvement gave me an opportunity to learn from his experience. When you vote on November 5th, you will consider many good people. Please consider which candidate has the best qualifications for this important position. I have a strong background in business, finance, and engineering. Also consider that diversity of experience improves the decision-making process of any council. My last name is spelled K-A-M-A-T, and I ask you to elect me for Orange Village Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conrad. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Before you run out the door, Becky, one of our question screeners, has a petition. If you want to, if you're willing to sign the petition, if you're a resident of Cuyahoga County, this is regarding the gun safety.
And background checks for the loophole, catchy things.
For the state of Ohio.
Online gun sales that are not legal. I have 7 more spots. I would be so happy.
Thank you all. Don't forget to vote.